Tansei, Tanishi, Buju. It's Samantha Loney from Simcoe Community Media, and I'm here to give you an update on some of the things that were discussed in the Affordability Committee meeting for the City of Barrie on October 29th. So 2 applications were brought forward for proposed developments in the City of Barrie on Tiffin Street and Arda. Both development applications were met with concerns by citizens who live in both areas, and they were present online and in person to bring forth these concerns to have a discussion with City Council before these applications get approved.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of Council. It's a pleasure to be back at Barrie Council again. It's been a while. My name is Kevin Bouchard. I'm a land use planner with Innovative Planning Solutions, and as was mentioned by the chair, this evening I'm representing 1006 598 Ontario Limited in an amendment to the Barrie official plan and in an amendment to zoning bylaw 2009-18 to provide for the development of a 30-story multiple residential building at 51 to 59 Tiffin Street in Barrie. Let me figure out your clicker here and we'll move on. So this is a conceptual rendering of the site. I like to introduce many of my presentations this way so people have an understanding of what is being put forward for discussion. It's a 30-story multiple unit dwelling. It has 285 residential units. It's skewed toward the attainable scale, I suppose, 23 bachelor, 91 one-bedroom, 72 one-bedroom and den, and 92 two-bedroom, but of course that's always open for discussion through the review process. The podium is 6 stories. The first story is a ground floor entry and storage and et cetera, and amenity area, and then there are 5 parking floors above that. There are no underground parking floors due to a high water table in the area. In terms of the surrounding the subject site, it has a land area of about 2,767 square meters. It has 60 meters frontage on Tiffin Street. Existing conditions, it's a lot area of 2 residential dwellings. The area is flat. It's flanked by a rail corridor, and obviously it's fronting on Tiffin Street as discussed. In behind, and I'll go into further detail in terms of the surrounding uses in subsequent slides. Here we are. In terms of the surrounding uses, of course, Council will know that this is an area that's identified for future growth and intensification, and that's being driven by the GO station, which is on the right-hand side of the drawing. And in fact, we're approximately 150 meters from the GO station. So we're looking at intensification in this area. I've identified approved developments or developments under consideration to the south of the rail line, as well as other commercial industrial uses, the wastewater treatment facility, park on the waterfront, and I think that's pretty well most on this slide area. Looking at the conceptual growth then, as I said, this is an area that's in transition over the years, and development approvals have begun to be filed and begun to be considered and approved in the area. If I'm starting at the lower right section, you can see that on the left-hand side, the approved developments are in the order of, and I'm having a hard time reading at this, 19, 21, 19 stories. As you move further to the east, you see developments under consideration from 23 to 39 stories. And so to the southwest generally of the rail line, there's intensification already being considered and approved. As we move to the north side of the rail line and fronting onto Tiffin Street, you see our site and a proposal for a 30-story structure there, a 30-story building, as I've discussed. The difference in land use designations to the south and where these more intensive developments are considering are being considered. It's a high-density residential designation to the north of the rail line. It moves to a medium-density designation. I'll speak to that in the slides that are on the right-hand side, or the pictures that are on the right hand of the slide. To the north of Tiffin Street, we also have a medium-density designation, and to the north and east, we have another high density. So it's almost high density, medium density, high density. You can see a variation in densities. So what I've tried to show on the portion to the right, you can see the blue buildings that are represented there are actually located south of the rail line. And you can see the higher density that is proposed there in terms of the maximum of 39 stories. To the west, you can see that there are lower. As we move into the slide below, you can see the green buildings, they are lower density transitioning down. When we're crossing Tiffin Street, you see the ghosted out buildings. They're generally around, on the right-hand side, they're generally 12 stories, which is the maximum height in the medium density designation. And as we move further to the I'm going to get my directions mixed up eventually here, but further to the east, you can see that high density pocket that's there. And so the discussion point that I'm bringing to your attention is that we're seeing a transition in this area in density as it comes up to the high density designation. In our lands, we're looking for a stepping down, a more gradual stepping down of that density on Tiffin Street as it moves toward a lower rise, medium density designation. So that's really prompting the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment to achieve this more gradual change in density on this site. Let me catch up to my slide here, if you don't mind. In terms of the policy context, the lands are within the city's built-up area, and obviously they're looking for more efficient use of underutilized lands and existing services. The development, as you're quite familiar with, this form of development, it was going to be compact, walkable, and transit-friendly. It contributes to your inventory of housing stock in Barrie and I have to say that I'm a veteran of 1992 when there was no construction, and it did come back. So hope springs eternal in that front, and so having an inventory of housing stock may serve the city in that context as we go further. I expect it will. Certainly it's within an MTSA, the Allendale MTSA, and in that context, it's an area where there's a lot of provincial support for intensification going forward. Quickly going through the official plan amendment. As described, we're looking to move from medium density to high density, and again, we're bringing it into that transitional discussion of density, sort of stepping it down. In terms of zoning bylaw, it becomes, the implementing is really to go from a residential multiple dwelling, RM1 zone, first density, RM1 zone, to the applicable apartment dwelling, second density with special exemptions, R2A2. And of course, that's all under the current not proposed zoning bylaw. So here's the official plan describing the medium density designation on the property. And again, the properties or lands to the north and east are high density, and to the south are high density. And again, this is about establishing a different form of transition between these built-up areas. We're also showing the major transit station area, which I already mentioned in the presentation, and we are in close proximity to the GO station at about 150 meters. Zoning, I discussed moving from the RM1 density, or dwelling first density, and again, moving to the apartment residential density. I'm going to gloss over the proposed density or proposed urban transition zone, but effectively the proposed zoning bylaw really mimics the kinds of range of densities that are in the existing bylaw today. The site development, I've mentioned a couple of times, it's 285 dwelling units, a 30-story building. It has a common amenity area, and I should have mentioned that's on the 5th floor of the podium. The 7th floor of the structure. Parking is 290 total spaces, and that works out to about 1.0 spaces per unit, is doing the quick math. Access, of course, is off of Tiffin Road, a single access going forward. There's the elevation drawings, and it has, I think, an attractive and interesting design, and I think it's going to contribute to the urban design and image in this area as an attractive addition to the multiple residential development. In terms, this table is scooting through the various zoning provisions that require amendment throughout. So it's fairly matter of fact in that sense. I think the parking again is probably the most direct rate, is going from 1.5 to 1.0 essentially spaces per dwelling unit. We did do, of course, the full requisite of planning studies. Obviously, I don't have the time to go through all of these. We have provided the planning justification report and affordable housing report. A shadow study was done by our architect, architecture unfolded, and most of the shadow impact is on the rail line to the south of the building, so it's not extending on the residential in the area. The wind studies are demonstrating that there's an appropriate comfort zone to this development. Obviously, there's going to be more wind and more impact during the winter, but it still retains that sort of level of comfort for that area. In terms of the functional servicing support or report, the site is relying on existing servicing in the area, sanitary and storm. What I will say, though, is that it has an internal stormwater management control through tankage on the site. I've mentioned that the hydrogeological conditions of the site, it's a high water table, so there is no underground parking. In terms of the traffic impact study, we've looked at a series of times going into the future, 10-year increments, and in all of those circumstances, we met an acceptable level of operations of intersections, et cetera. I think those are the only things that I really wish to point out quickly, but we can certainly have more of a conversation in any questions that arise. So the summary of my presentation is that the proposal does align with provincial and municipal policy in terms of intensification, in terms of transit-friendly, and in terms of walkability, in terms of uses. So we think that it is entirely supportable in that context, particularly in reference to the three concepts that I've outlined in this presentation: proximity to the MTSA, the provision of attainable housing, and what's unique to this perhaps is working through the transition of building heights in this MTSA area. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard. I will now call upon Michelle Banfield, Executive Director of Development Services, to provide an update on the status of the application.
Thank you, Chair Nixon, for the introduction. Planning staff are currently reviewing the application, including that long list of studies that Mr. Bouchard just showed us. So the update now is that there was a neighborhood meeting that was held for this project on June 9th, where approximately 36 residents came, as well as Councillor Jim Harris, city staff, and the applicant's team. Some of the comments that we heard were some concerns about parking and increased traffic and congestion in the area, the appropriateness of the scale of the development and the neighborhood fit, conformity to the official plan, as well as some questions about some of the site-specific uses, site-specific provisions, affordable housing, and green space and amenity space. So all of the comments that were raised from members of the public will be listed in the staff report that come back. So staff are continuing to look at this project. We'll be looking at conformity to the city's official plan, although as the applicant's consultant pointed out, they actually have asked for an official plan amendment. We'll be taking a look at the appropriateness of the amendment and the appropriateness of the zoning bylaw provisions in the proposed amendment. We'll look at the appropriateness of the height and density impacts on the surrounding land uses, We're going to make sure that the proposed development can be supported by either our existing services or planned services and infrastructure. And for sure, we'll take a look at any sort of potential traffic impacts, the access location, pedestrian connections, and overall site design. We are expecting that we're going to be able to come back to council in the first quarter of 2026 for a staff report. And again, as I mentioned before, every comment that's either raised through the public process or the technical review process will be addressed in that final staff report. As always, all the submission materials, key dates, and everything associated with the application are available on the city's proposed development webpage. This would be under Ward 8, or you can contact Michelle Freedy, the senior planner on the file directly. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll move to public comments. We will start with Mr. Arnie Iveson, who I see in the crowd. Mr. Iveson, please come down and state your name and your address for the record, please.
So you guys can get home and watch the Blue Jays tonight. Arnie Iveson, 43 Alfred Street in Barrie. Good day, Mayor Nuttall, members of council and city staff. To begin, I attended the public virtual meeting held on June the 9th with regards to this proposal on Tiffin Street. During this meeting, several things came to light and many excellent questions were asked by residents and Councillor Harris. I understand that all comments were noted, but as I was unsure of how they would be communicated to yourselves, I decided to speak this evening. Several concerns I have include, but are not limited to, our density, congestion, affordability, and safety. In terms of density, there are already 7 other high-rises planned for this area along Essa Road, Innisfil Street, and Jacobs Terrace roads. This would make tower number 8 in the immediate area, adding 30 stories and 285 units, which would hold approximately 700 people using a metric of 2.5 people per unit. Add in 1,259 units, or approximately 3,150 people at 41 and 43 Essa Road, and 259, 273 Innisfil Street developments. 33 units, or approximately 850 people at 272 Innisfil Street, which is Barrie Antiques Mall, along with another 504 units and approximately another 12,060 people at 17 and 27 Jacobs Terrace. Added all up, this totals approximately 6,000 people inserted into an area of less than 1 square kilometer. All this development will inevitably lead to further congestion. As I resided within a kilometer of this proposal for 39 years, I no longer take Tiffin Street to get downtown. I've used a different route for about the past 2 years. I won't share that. Most days, especially in the mornings and between 4 and 6 p.m., traffic is backed up to and past Innisfil Street. To say the majority of residents living in this proposed development will be walking to Allendale Station and using public transit is a fallacy. It was also mentioned that Tiffin Street would be widened an additional 2 lanes. The traffic study states, quote, Tiffin Street from Ferndale Drive to Essa Road, 4 lanes plus two-way left turn lane before 2026. So that's expanding Tiffin from 2 lanes to 5 with sidewalks and a bike lane. Interesting because the current sketch of proposal goes to the edge of the existing sidewalk. This development also does not meet the criteria for the city's historic neighborhood strategy and would stick out as an eyesore, much like the Lego building on Dunlop Street. In terms of affordable units, the question was asked during the public meeting and none had been designated at that time. This proposal is designated as, quote, 30-story residential condo tower, not apartments. The average price of a 1-bedroom condo in Barrie is between $400,000 and $450,000. I asked about crash berms, crash walls, and setback distances to mitigate risks from train derailments. A standard is to combine a 30-meter setback with an earthen burn or crash wall. I believe the applicant does not have a plan for those measures. The geotechnical report states, should a crash wall be required to mitigate potential impact of a train crash into the proposed development, and conceptual design of the proposed wall should be prepared. I believe the current proposal is a 7-meter setback from the tracks, thus it can't cover a threshold of a 30-meter setback, especially if we're adding 3 lanes of traffic and a bike lane. During the meeting, I recall Councillor Harris asked if the applicant had any previous experience in building such projects, and Councillor Harris can correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall the answer as being no. In talking to an individual in the weeks following, they used the term land banker, loosely defined as someone that just sits on land for possible future development or sale with no intent or immediate building. My personal feeling is that the applicant simply wants to change the rezoning to a greater height and density to assist in any possible future sale of the property. I do want to remind and I commend the mayor's and council and your council decision with regards to the property at Sam Kinsella Park and reminding us and maintaining bylaw standards in terms of height. Build something here that more fits the area within current bylaws and is safe and affordable for Barrie residents. This type of project and other high rises belong more in new developmental lands, such as the South GO Station area, where infrastructure can be built in and around it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Kathy Colbatch on the line? I believe she registered to be virtual. No, not yet. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to? Oh, she is there. Oh, okay.
I wouldn't
Ms.
miss
Colbatch?
this.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Thank you.
The floor
Well
is
done.
yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arnie. That was fantastic. You pretty much covered everything I was going to say. I had sent a couple of notes to Councillor Harris this evening, and without really wanting to go over a lot of what Arnie has, I'm just going to say that I would prefer, and I think many of the neighbors and residents would prefer, to see this retained at medium density. It wasn't all that long ago through the official plan that this was changed to medium density. So I feel like we're on a bit of a hamster wheel. Should it be low rise? Should it be medium density? Should it be high density? And I think that, we'll leave that to staff to review all the reports and do what they do. The other thing is that this building is sitting in a historic neighborhood. There are single family dwellings, probably multi-unit. Some of those may be registered, may not be, across the road on Tiffin Street. And at this point, they're not going anywhere. We just built a brand new Barrie Allendale transit hub, which is low rise. The hair salon and tourism Barrie are also low rise, as well as the historic neighborhood train station. So it really is in a residential area, and I think most residents would, be happy with, even if it was 12 stories. So maybe that's something that staff, if council down the road decides that high density is not it, would this applicant consider going back to the drawing board and showing us something that was medium density? I think that obviously the special provisions are outrageous when you look at what is required under the current zoning bylaw, where you're looking at for medium density 45 meters, but now you want to go to 93. That's more than twice. So, and I'm not going to go through all of those, but if you have a look at those, you will see that the provisions that they're asking for are, in my view, outrageous. And I do have a question, and I'm not sure if somebody can answer this. How many, or what is the percentage of affordable units that should be provided in this building? Is it, and I did talk to staff, but we were unsure whether it was 5% because it's in the MTSA, whether it's 10%, or whether it's 20%. And if they don't build, typically there's money in lieu of. Where does that money go? Does that money go to the county of Simcoe to build affordable housing, or does it go back into the community?
Ms. Colbatch, I'll just jump in here. Normally during these deputations, there is not a place for questions, but you're more than welcome to submit the questions via email to either to Michelle Banfield or to city clerks at barrie.ca, and they will forward them accordingly and get back to you.
Okay, and I have done that. I also wanted to ask, with all of the various assessments that have been done, will a heritage impact assessment be done and an archaeological assessment be done? Those aren't showing on all of the various reports that are on the website. So those are, I guess, would be my concerns. And I thank you, but I would like to make one comment. This is a public meeting, not a deputation. So my understanding was we could ask questions And we should be able to ask questions, and perhaps the developer could answer those simple questions.
Okay, actually, Ms. Cook, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. During public meetings, staff take note of the questions that are put forward at the meetings and can respond directly by email or by meeting or by phone call with people that attend the public meetings. And that's the way it's been done in the past. This is nothing new.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cook, and thank you, Ms. Colbatch. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or would like to come down? Yes, please come down, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shane Graham. I live at 2 Short Street, and excuse me, I'm also here to speak up on behalf of my mom and dad who live at 50 Tiffin Street, right across from this development. It's an abomination, the way we look at it. It scares the hell out of my mom and dad, out of me. Right now, Tiffin Street is so busy. We've had so many problems, left, right, and center, with regards to traffic. Now, a lot of drug problems, and speeding, sounds, noises, and it's just getting ridiculous. Now, we take a look at this, and we would request that anything north of the railroad tracks be made possibly low density, if possible. But the thing is, this does not fit into the community. My mom and dad's house was built in 1885. Our family's been in Barrie for over 100 years. My grandparents had Freedom's Red and White on Essa Road. This is my home, and it's slowly getting eroded by these big developments they're walking in. And first of all, I want to thank Kathy and Ernie for all their details and all this other stuff. All I can do is speak from the heart and on behalf of my parents, because this is getting a little ridiculous. And we took one look at this and we said, no, this can't happen. And basically that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Ward 8 Councillor Harris, do you have any questions of clarification?
Thank you, Chair Nixon. Yes, I do, and thank you. Just wanted to begin with, it's been noted by Mr. Bouchard, and if I could maybe ask through you to Ms. Banfield, the new official plan, certainly there was a plan for this area, and I imagine there was a great deal of thought and concern that went into the decision about the change in the density. I wonder if you could speak to why this area on Tiffin, it was zoned as it is in the new official plan for that transition, and how important that is to a proper and effective development of the area.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harris. So certainly when the official plan was being developed, by the very nature of what an official plan is, there's the ability to look at the broader community, the broader context, and look at all of the uses kind of in whatever little community there are, and making sure that the land uses do transition. What's different with when a development application comes in is that then that focus really narrows from that broader community context to the site-specific context. And as much as property owners and developers, look at the surrounding area when they bring in an application, their application and the work that they do is much more focused, which is why city staff do the work that we do, where we pull that focus back out again at a broader level, even with the residents suggesting that there are all these other development applications in the area. Absolutely there are, and when city staff look at it, they don't look at just this traffic impact study, they look at everything that's been submitted for the whole area. So, that's probably the easiest way to kind of answer that the city staff take a look at it at a broader context than the applicants do when they're coming in with a planning application.
Great, and thank you for that. And through your Chair Nixon, yeah, I think you said that really well. There's the city plan, and there's development's interest in their property and making that work in their vision. And having said that, just to kind of, I guess, extend the process technically, and we see on can't remember what number the slide is, but it's the conceptual growth one. When they show the scale, they show theirs, which is obviously above the regular scale. So in theory, you could have all of those other properties ask for the same exemptions and have that scale be the same all across that street, correct? Like that outcome, council could approve that type of outcome despite it being medium density, official plan, transition area. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair Nixon, hypothetically, yes, that could be a scenario.
Thank you. I just wondered, Mr. Bouchard, thank you. Obviously there was a few comments, questions that were kind of directed to you, so maybe it's a chance for you to speak to some of those. I was wondering, as it relates to the discussion around rental, condo, or affordable, I wonder if you wanted to comment on any advancements on rental versus condo and affordability units in the building.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Harris. At this point, my client is looking at a condominium development, and obviously he'll have to meet the market requirements. So it will not, in the PPS, we're required to meet certain thresholds of affordability in any development. This won't be affordable in terms of subsidy or subsidized housing or public housing, but it will meet the tests that are in the PPS relating to affordability and attainability of housing. So that's certainly the market that he's going to. And I think that's the only clarification I can provide at this time, Councillor Harris.
Okay, thank you. And I won't burden you with my opinion on what looks good for urban design, but I will offer just a friendly comment around, and I really like the conceptual site rendering, having that upfront in the presentation. But when I look at it and I look to the left of your building and see those heritage buildings, the railway, the new transit hub, which was built with intention to look and fit into the area. And as Ms. Kolbach mentioned, I believe Mr. Ibsen's mentioned as well, the heritage area and those kind of historic elements that really define Allendale. So I wondered, again, not to design your building, but to think about, is there room capacity for thinking about lovely building, but is it the right building for that location given the look and the feel of that area? So I don't know if you want to comment on that, or is that something that is still within the realm of possibility?
Through the chair, if I may, to Mr. Harris. I mean, I'm taking notes on these comments, and I have a colleague who's attending virtually doing the same. And I like to take the position at this stage in the process that we're in early days of discussion. And while I can't commit that we're going to come back with a medium density proposal, I can commit that we'll listen to the comments that are made and we'll address them in terms of our response back to the staff and municipality. So if I can sort of leave it at that, I think that's our position.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and yeah, I think you answered kind of two questions there. One was about the thought about the medium density, but just curious about the design in that Allendale Heritage District kind of style. Is that something that could be considered or would be willing to be considered by your client?
Again, I'll take that back to my client for consideration. I can't give the commitment tonight at the podium, but you know, these meetings are all about starting a public discourse, or continuing in this case because we haven't had a neighborhood meeting, continuing that discourse and hearing your thoughts and opinions and taking them into consideration. And we'll certainly do that.
Great, thank you. I think my seat buzzes every time I ask a question. It's a Jays game tonight. I think I'm being buzzed to hurry up. So I just maybe one last question. If you could speak to the question around obviously safety being paramount in all things that we do. Wondering if you would comment on the Mr. Ibsen's questions about, sorry, Ms. Bouchard, sorry, about the responsibility. Yeah, sorry.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I sat down and
I had a
looked away,
preamble that made
and
no
a little
sense.
hard
It
of
was
hearing,
my,
so I wanted to hear it all.
Yeah, it was my attempt at humor, given the Jays game is nearing upon us. With Mr. Evans raised a good question about safety, and we have a rail corridor there, and we understand how that important is. Any comments you want to make about the understanding of what your responsibility is vis-a-vis the rail barrier?
Yes, in my career, I've done multiple sites where they've been impacted by rail lines, and it really is a non-negotiable point when that decision is made by the rail line that indeed this is a requirement. And what typically happens is you solve it one of two ways, with a setback and perhaps a berm, or you build in a crash wall into the design of the building. And so our expectation is that would be our response, given the limitations of the site area. So, as I said earlier, we're in the early days of this discussion and getting comments back, and we'll be having that discussion with the rail line and come to that conclusion. I think it really is a technical question that needs to be resolved. We're not putting it off. It just at this point, we think that this is a reasonable approach to go, and we may be educated on that fact, Councillor Harris, and change our plan to accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I maybe believe from other learnings about the Metrolinx and GO and rail that there's standards that we don't get to decide. They're decided for us. Is that correct? Maybe through you, Ms. Chair Nixon, to Ms. Banfield. I think you're majority for nodding, I think, along.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harris, absolutely. But there is a dialogue. Like there definitely, as Mr. Béchard said, there are options. But at the end of the day, it's making sure that Metrolinx is happy with those options.
Great, thank you. And that's all for me. I look forward to hearing reading the questions to the answers, and thank you to the residents for their comments and questions and interests. So thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. And just to mention that all additional written comments may be forwarded to Michelle Freethy at michelle.freethy@barrie.ca. We will now move to the second public meeting, and I will now call upon Ashley Blow of Innovative Planning Solutions to provide the presentation concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application 286 Arda Road.
Good evening, committee members, staff, and the public. My name is Ashley Blow, a land use planner with Innovative Planning Solutions. I am here speaking on behalf of the landowners of 286 Arda Road to present the requested zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate the proposed development of an apartment dwelling. Starting here with the context of the subject lands. The lands have a total lot area of approximately 1.1 hectares with 88 meters of frontage along Arda Road. There are currently no structures on the property, and the site contains an existing entrance off of Arda Road, located centrally on the site, which was used for a previous dwelling, which has since been demolished. There we go. Here is a map showing the wider community. Arda Road is primarily a residential area with some commercial and large areas of environmental protection. There is also a well-serviced area by public transit, schools, as well as parks. The city's official plan designates the lands as neighborhood area, which permits and promotes a broad range of uses, including but not limited to residential uses, parks, and open spaces. The city's zoning bylaw currently zones the lands as agriculture. Agricultural zones are rare within the city boundaries, and any form of development within them would require a zoning bylaw amendment. The official plan mobility network map identifies Arda Road as an arterial road, which is considered a major corridor designed to carry high traffic volumes, support transit, goods, movement, and growth. They are key locations for intensification as well as higher density, which supports apartment buildings. Shown here is the proposed concept plan. The proposal includes a 6-story, 72-unit walk-up apartment building with 93 parking spaces, including barrier-free spaces and access from Arda Road at the bottom. Importantly, we are dedicating about 5,155 square meters of land to the city of Barrie as environmentally protected green space, as shown here in the dark green. This dedication not only protects the natural area, but also helps expand the city's trail network and connect the community to nearby green spaces. This concept plan is a great example of how we can balance new housing with environmental protection to make a meaningful contribution to the city's open spaces as well as the residential growth. Shown here is the landscape concept plan. This slide illustrates the planted landscaping buffers along the perimeter of the developable area and shows how the building has been set back from the existing watercourse in the light blue to satisfy the requirements of the NVCA. The plan includes extensive tree and shrub plantings to enhance the green space and buffer the development as shown in the black circles. The location of the building is as far west as possible to ensure appropriate separation distances from existing residential dwellings on Pasco Court, together with vegetative enhancements. A tree preservation plan was also completed as part of the submission. And a trail network, the yellow dashed line, will connect to existing green spaces and include lookout points for residents to enjoy the natural surroundings. Shown here are the conceptual renderings with perspectives from all sides. These renderings highlight the landscaping that will be featured throughout the site, creating an attractive and welcoming environment for residents and the community. A zoning bylaw amendment is required to rezone the lands from agricultural to apartment dwelling first density 2, with site-specific provisions to support the proposed design. Shown here is a list of the requested provisions, along with an image to depict what they're referring to. Number 1, we are requesting reductions to the interior side yard setback on the western side yard, which is abutting the dedicated green space. Number 2 is with respect to the secondary means of access landscape buffering. Reduction is required at the west door abutting the dedicated green space, as well as the north door which connects to the parking lot. A landscape buffer area is also required for parking areas. Number 3 is requesting a reduction to the east of the parking area. And finally, number 4, parking at a reduced rate as the development is transit supportive and located along a major transit corridor. Overall, these site-specific provisions are necessary to achieve a functional and efficient design that makes the best use of the site, provides safe access, enhances landscaping, and ensures adequate parking, resulting in a well-designed development which improves the site and contributes positively to the surrounding area. On the screen is a list of the supporting studies and reports which were completed as part of the submission package. These include a range of environmental, technical, and design-related studies, all prepared to support and inform the proposed development and ensure it meets the city's requirements and best practices. The subject lands are within the built boundary of a settlement area, meaning this proposal focuses on where it is intended to happen within the city. The development makes use of vacant, underutilized property to deliver much-needed housing diversity in this part of Barrie, providing new options for residents while contributing to a more complete and connected community. Located on Arda Road, an arterial road identified for providing housing variety, the site is fully serviced and offers excellent access to transit, sidewalks, and nearby amenities. The subject lands are the type of area that the official plan envisions for higher density housing. Importantly, a significant portion of the property will be dedicated to the environmental protection. This dedication will preserve natural features, protect the watercourse, and expand the city's green and trail network, ensuring long-term community and environmental benefits. Overall, this proposal reflects smart, sustainable growth, providing new housing choices while protecting and enhancing the natural environment. In summary, this zoning bylaw amendment supports the development of a 6-story, 72-unit walk-up apartment building that will bring new housing options to Arda Road, an arterial road identified for growth. The requested site-specific provisions for reduced setbacks and landscape buffers, along with the site parking reduction, are contextually minor in nature, maintain the intent of the city's official plan, and are appropriate when considering the site's context. A significant portion of the property is being dedicated to the city of Barrie as environmentally protected green space, enhancing the neighborhood and contributing to the city's green and trail network. Because of this dedication, the developable area is relatively small. These minor adjustments are necessary to make efficient use of the land and are not anticipated to negatively impact future residents or the surrounding community. Overall, this proposal represents responsible, well-designed growth, which balances new housing, environmental protection, and community enhancement. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time this evening. My colleague, Nick Scarrett, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. We're going to take about a 30-second break here. We've got a large group of people who have been waiting patiently to come in, who were being very polite and didn't want to disturb us. So we are just going to allow them to come in and sit down and get comfortable, and then we will continue. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the last 4 hours of our meeting here. I will now call upon Riley Anderson, planner from the Development Services Department, to provide an update on the status of the application we just heard. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Nixon and members of Affordability Committee. Planning staff are currently completing the technical review process associated with this application. In addition to the memo provided to the Affordability Committee, here's an update regarding the status of the application, comments received from the public, and the primary planning and land use matters being considered by staff at this time. A neighborhood meeting was held on January 18th, 2024, with 43 attendees, including Ward 6 Councillor Negussi, the applicant's consultants, and planning staff. Members of the public provided comments relating to the following matters: protection and preservation of existing boundary trees, concerns with reduced landscape buffers and development setbacks, concern regarding the proposed parking ratio and increased demand for on-street parking, concerns about the proposed height and loss of privacy on the neighboring properties, concerns about increased density and the number of proposed units, concerns about environmental protection in the surrounding area, and questions pertaining to surrounding school accommodations for all existing and new residents to the development. The application is currently under review by planning staff, the city's technical departments, and external agencies. The primary planning and land use matters being considered by staff at this time include conformity with provincial planning policy and the city's official plan, justification and the appropriateness of the proposed amendment and the requested site-specific provisions, efficient use of land and resources that optimize the use of existing services and infrastructure, integration of the proposed development in the surrounding residential area, including the preservation of private and shared boundary vegetation, impacts that the development may have on traffic operations in the area, and compliance with city standards. A detailed analysis of these considerations and site-specific zoning provisions will be provided when a staff report is brought forward for general committee's consideration. Staff will continue to work with the applicant to address feedback received through the public consultation process, as well as comments raised through the analysis of these applications by technical staff and our agency partners. A staff report providing a recommendation to general committee on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is anticipated to be brought forward in the first quarter of 2026. All submission materials and key dates associated with the application, along with my contact information, are available for viewing online on the city's proposed development webpage under Ward 6. Thank you to members of the Affordability Committee and the public. This now concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you very much. We will now move to public comments. I now invite, is it Brett Paul? Brett Paul is with us in chamber? Or is that virtual? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'll make this quick because the Jays are on in 30 minutes. Thank you, Council, for taking the time to listen to my comments. These are just some, I've read all the studies and everything that was done for the agriculture land. I'm just going to read through my comments real quick. The flooding in the study, the hazard limits were conducted in 2002, which I'm concerned could have changed since then. The study, the geotechnical investigation and slope stability report proposed a 4-story building. And this was GEI consulting engineers and scientists in 2022. So I'm not sure why a 6-story is proposed. The proposed amendment for the east side reduction removes all the vegetation, including a 100-year-old tree, which is bigger than my house. And then when we move on to parking, the tests done by the company to see if reduced parking would be acceptable was done at parking locations done during COVID. The numbers could possibly not be accurate as people weren't visiting others. Not to mention the first test done was on a long weekend. People might have been away. The second test done on a Tuesday, again, visitors, it's just those types of tests might be done again outside of COVID. And not to mention the test locations that they did to reduce, this is to reduce parking because they want to reduce the amount of parking spaces for the unit. The test locations were done at locations where buildings were right next to public parking locations, such as like a mall or an actual parking lot, like a grocery store. So, whereas on the location, the proposed location doesn't have any overflow parking other than Pass Court, which, sorry, I forgot to mention, I live at 38 Pass Court, ironic. So our street would have, we already have limited visitor parking, and with the emergency entrance from the condo parking to our street, which is proposed, would remove like half of our on-street parking. So moving on, in regards to the height of the building, I don't understand how 6 stories could be possible. There is none anywhere near us, and even the ones that are, there are 3 stories around us, and those ones are not even right next to homes, let alone 6 stories. I've looked for other tall buildings such as like that's proposed, such as 6 stories, and the closest I could find, I believe, is 4.9 kilometers away. It's at Ann Street in Edge Hill. And I'd like to know, I'd like to see other locations, certainly in a residential only area where you have 6-story buildings, certainly this close to houses. And then the emergency egress part that goes from the condo building to Pass Court. And again, I don't get that because every winter, the entire street, our street, they pile the snow up at that location. So there's no way an emergency vehicle would be able to get through. So I don't understand why. I've seen some of the other emergency exits, such as on Ferndale, there's condo buildings there, and they have emergency exits, but they're not piling snow at those locations, whereas there's nowhere else to pile the snow on our street. Like it's a court. So, and then finally, I don't, with so few agricultural locations in Barrie, I'm not sure why we need to take this one and make it into a condo building when it's right next to the Ardagh Bluffs. And yes, I realize it's a private property currently, but the community uses that space to go through, like between the houses, there's pathways that families and that use to go through there to get to Ardagh Bluffs. And it just makes more sense to keep it that way versus turning it into a building. Now, with the proposed building, there would still be access to walk through, I assume, for the public. And in which case, okay, that makes sense. And if, it just doesn't make sense to make it 6 stories where it's taller than all the houses around it and certainly taller than all the other ones in the area. So, yeah, that's all I had written down. Go Jays, go.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Ward 6 Councillor Negussi, do you have any questions of clarification?
Yes, Chair Nixon. IT department, can you please put the concept site plan on the screen and I'm gonna ask staff, probably Ms. Anderson or Ms. Banfield. Just to make it clear, Ms. Banfield, for residents who are here with us or those watching from home, can you please clarify where the property line for this address is? One of the concerns raised involved in the nearby trail in this area. So can you provide us detailed information about the exact location for the property boundary?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councilor Negussi and everyone in the audience, if you take a look at what's on the screen right now, you can see the property boundary is not shaded in, and where the little kind of bullseye target is. So that's the entire property. And as you see where that little arrow points in the existing trail, that's the location of the existing trail that I believe Mr. Paul had pointed out when he was speaking. You'll see that is not on this property. And then if you could perhaps advance the next slide to the next picture. Okay, so I think, again, so you're going back to seeing the entire property, certainly surrounded by some of the environmental protected land that, again, Mr. Paul was talking about. But if you look at this picture on the right, you'll see that's still the same rectangular shape of the parcel, but you can see a large portion of that land is going to be conveyed to the city of Barrie through this development application. So if you take a look at the entire site, only the portion really where the dashed line is, that little red, the red line thing there actually says new property line. So that will be what would remain with this development, and the remainder of the property would be rezoned to environmental protection and dedicated to the city of Barrie.
If I may, Chair Nixon. So, Ms. Banfield, how will the dedication of this environmental protection land be monitored and maintained to ensure long-term ecological integrity? Will the city impose ongoing supervision or maintenance requires on the developer or property owner?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Negussi. Once the property is dedicated to the city of Barrie, it becomes part of our land holding and is maintained by parks operations like every other piece of property that the city owns.
Okay. One more, Chair Nixon. Regarding the east side of the parcel, where the parking lot backs directly onto the existing residential homes, will the applicant be required to install a solid full-height privacy fence or other barrier sufficient to block vehicle headlights from shining into neighboring yards?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Negussi, there is a zoning bylaw requirement to build a 2-meter tight board fence along those lot lines.
Okay, thank you, Chair Nixon.
Again, citizens still have time to voice concerns or support for both of these potential developments, and you're encouraged to either reach out to City Hall to have your voice heard at the next council meeting where these developments will be up for debate, or you can reach out to your ward councillors to let them know what your feelings are about these potential developments. Merci for watching, and we'll see you down the river.